2004. What really triggered the audit in 2004 was the arrest of 2 sons of the general sometime in 2003. Okay? Actually, I was told that the US officers have been monitoring these students because they are students and yet they are always traveling on a business class. And mind you, I was unable to travel in a business class going here, okay? And I was already working for 5 years as a consultant at Asian Development Bank. So these students, although students are already traveling using a business class ticket. And then the US authorities found out that there is $100,000 stuck in their socks. And of course, just like any mother, any Filipino mother, the mother of the students ran into their help, ran to help her son, and she explained to the US authorities that, you know, this money are actually shopping money. We're given 20,000 as traveling money because suppliers would usually give money to my husband, and my husband is the controller of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Oh. I think I have to share this with you because it is actually the most convincing reason why I decided to tell it all in public. I remember when I met Matthew Van Dyke, he was very explicit in saying that, you know, when I was interviewing the mother, I was a bit, I don't know how could I explain it, but you know, I found something wrong with what the mother is saying. And I was just thinking, what could that be? Well, there are always many attempts to smuggle in cash like that. But what is most so really unbelieving or so interesting is that you Filipinos love to brag about stealing money from the government. So it is a bit, you know, it's very embarrassing, a foreigner telling before you that you Filipinos love to brag about stealing public money. And I think I was like unable to forget about that, and I took it as a challenge that maybe one day, given the chance, I could prove him wrong. So because of that arrest, I think the US government prompted the Philippine government. Initially, the information was relayed to the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of the Philippines sometime in 2003. But then nothing happened. The decision or the action done was simply to move the controller from the Office of the Controllership to the Office of the Plans and Programs of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. The then Office of Controllership was very powerful. He was in charge of accounting, he was in charge of planning, he was in charge of budget, he was in charge of internal audit. In other words, it's just like a complete cycle of a transaction completely being under the command and control of a single person. So basically, the internal control is really very quick. So within an audit, on the basis of a request by then former Ombudsman Simeon Marcelo, they requested for the help of the Commission on Audit, and Commission on Audit replied by creating a team headed by me to provide assistance in the conduct of financial investigation of the Armed Forces of the Philippines sometime in 2004. So the audit started in October of 2004. It wasn't really easy for auditors to start the audit. Unlike in the US, you know, when the auditors came in, everything is being readied, everything is being given. In the country, it is not that easy, you know. You have to use a lot of charm, a lot of wits, and a lot of creativity in terms of getting exactly the documents that you want. While I must admit that we have lots of laws which are supposed to protect the interests of the government, there are also so many circumstances that these laws prove to be counterproductive. For example, when I was trying to attempt to accede or to access the records of Modernization Fund, I told the bank manager, can I look into the documents supporting the Modernization Fund? And then she told me, I'm sorry, Madam Auditor, we could not because of the bank secrecy law. And then I said, is it not that the bank secrecy law is intended to protect the interest of the owner? And so, if the Modernization Fund account at your bank is owned by the Armed Forces of the Philippines, therefore, if we access this information, it means to say that we, the government auditors, are doing this to protect the interests of the Filipino people, right? So, I mean, you should give us access to these accounts. And then she simply told me that, Ma'am, maybe what you can do is to ask for a letter from the Chief of Staff allowing you access over these documents. So I went back to Armed Forces of the Philippines General Headquarters. I asked for a copy of the letter from the Chief of Staff. And then when I go back, I talk to the manager again, bringing with me the copy of the letter of the Chief of Staff. And then I was surprised because I was told, Ma'am, actually, this is not the letter that we are requiring. I said, what kind of letter do you really want? What I really mean to say is that what I need is a letter from the one who opened the account. And I said, are you crazy? Are you telling me that I go to the general in his jail and then I said, hi general, good afternoon, can you please sign this letter for me so I can open your account? You know, it's really that crazy. And so, you know, in the Philippines, it's very difficult to get documents. And aside from this, there is also what we call the collusion of bankers themselves with corrupt government officials. That's why, you know, it's unfair to be telling government people are corrupt, because there is as much as corruption in the private sector. And in a country such as ours, a developing one, there is so much scarcity for the so-called investable funds. And the only agency that can provide the so-called investable funds in material amount happen to be the agencies of the government. And in this specific instance, the Armed Forces of the Philippines, because they have the General Appropriations Fund, they have funds coming from the Barikatan, the US exercise. They have funds coming from the United Nations. So they really have very significant investable funds. And because of such situation, even the bank managers themselves are willing to, you know, left banking rules and regulations just to accommodate, just to capture the very much scarce investable funds. One specific example is that during the audit, we noticed that there was something like 22 million pesos that was moved from one fund to another fund. I confronted the bank manager and I asked for a copy of a debit memo or a credit memo. And then she simply informed me, sorry madam, we could not present any debit or credit memo because there's none. I said, what is the basis for the transfer of the money? She said, Ma'am, it's actually based on a phone call. I said, what? You are actually transferring public money. And she simply said, Ma'am, anyway, we're going to return it na lang, and then we're going to pay the appropriate interest. You know, it is as simple as that. So this is basically how accounting and auditing of funds is being done in the government. It is really very difficult. You're working on a completely, how do you call this one, completely not so good condition when you look at records, when you look at financial transactions.
Banker, she's a banker.
I'll tell you, okay? And you will see it in the PowerPoint anyway. There are so many banks involved anyway. So what I'm trying to say is that you have to be very creative in getting those documents, you have to beat around the law in order to find this out. One particular example that we try to employ here is that we use a lot of help from the network that we have with the religious community and the academy. You know, at one point, I'm always happy to share this experience. When I was interviewing the bank manager of a certain bank, I told her, can I access the documents covering this particular account? And then she told me, Mom, you know, my daughter is still young. Please understand, I don't want to get involved. And then I said, are you a Catholic? Yes, Mom. Do you go to Mass every Sunday? Yes, Mom. From where are you? From Cavite, Ma'am. Do you know Bishop Tagle? Yes, Ma'am. If I ask the bishop to visit you on Sunday, will you give him the documents? He said, oh no, don't ask him to go. I will give you the documents, okay? So this is some sort of, you know, trying to use your own culture in order to get the documents, no? So, after all these difficulties and after all these trials, we were able to partly identify what really are the sources of corruption in the agency. And I'm almost finished with the review of the entire transactions from 2001 to 2004 when I received the sad news. Simeon Marcelo actually resigned from the office of the Ombudsman. It was September, but the resignation took effect on November 2005. So I was left alone in the office of the Ombudsman, okay? And when on March 2006, only a few months after Simeon Marcelo left, then Ombudsman Gutierrez asked me to vacate the office because it will be turned into a library. So I have a problem of where to bring my 9 big boxes, balikbayan boxes of documents. You know, Filipinos love to carry balikbayan boxes. So you should credit us, you know, we don't use the balikbayan boxes only for shopping. You use it also to store documents and evidence, okay? So I went back to my office, which is the Commission on Audit. So I talked to my chairman and I told him that the ombudsman has resigned. I have no other choice. I have to go back to the Commission on Audit. So what should I do? Where will I deposit the evidence and the documents that we have gathered? And I was shocked to hear from him that I was told not to continue anymore, return the documents, and stop writing a report. For me, it was very difficult then. It was difficult because, you know, we encountered a lot in terms of gathering these documents. It's not just a matter of opening one cabinet, taking out some rings of bond paper, and then photocopying them, and then that's it. We did a lot of difficulty. So I said, you know, I could not, in my conscience, agree that I will no longer conduct the audit and I will no longer write the report. So I said, I think, sir, I will resign. So on March 16, that's the birthday of my father, so I could not forget. March 16, 2006, I submitted my resignation. After I submitted my resignation, I thought all along that it was the end of a career consisting of at least 21 years, 21.75 years. I worked with the European Commission as consultant with World Bank, Asia Development Bank. And then comes 2007, October 2007, I was asked by the Office of the Ombudsman, can you help us, Madam, because the case was already filed, but we have no evidence, and we want to present you as an expert witness in accounting and an expert witness in audit. And so I agreed. I agreed, and I continued to attend the hearing at Sandigan Bayan from 2007 to 2009. It was a difficult and a lonesome battle. Unfortunately, there are so many in the government, in the Philippines, who are really, how do you call this one? Not so much trusting the government, who have so much against the government, but when it comes to, you know, when they are being asked to do something, most of them are unwilling. It is a sad experience for my family that during those 16 appearances in Sandigan Bayan, there were no civil society, no representative from the church, no representative from the academy, not even from the media. It was just me and my husband, the prosecutors, the defense lawyer, and the respondent with his secretary, with the best lawyer in town, and with his security, okay? And I was there all on my own, with of course with my husband. On one particular instance, I remember, he was so mad at me, and then he approached me and he told me, you know, you are lying, and there will be a reckoning day for you. So if I show you his picture, you will have an idea of how it feels, you know. So this is really the wrong slide.